All right, welcome everybody to the 7th class. So can you all hear me okay? You can say something so I can hear you too.
Yes, we can.
Yes,
Yeah.
great, wonderful. Welcome to the 7th class in the Samādhi Pādaḥ, the first chapter of the Yoga Sūtras. This is the penultimate class, so we will have one more class. We are getting close to the end of the first chapter. As I mentioned, the first chapter is like a broad summary for advanced students, a broad summary of yoga for advanced students. That's how it's structured. And this is a style that is adopted in some of the Sutra expositions, the aphorism style expositions, where it's already, the aphorisms are already a summary of a vast topic. And the first chapter is a summary of the entire topic. All right, with that, let's go to where we were last time. We were looking at the summary of the anchors to still the mind. So when the mind is very restless and agitated, Patanjali talks about these anchors. It's like a circuit breaker to still the mind. So we saw several anchors. Now, what a lot of the teachers say is, even though the words and the terms that are used are very fancy, these are all things which we have experienced. The whole idea is to use that as a starting point and trying to elong or lengthen the state of experience. So that's what we should do. These are not completely alien topics to us. We've all experienced these states of mind. So the various anchors Patanjali talks about: calm the mind socially by cultivating certain attitudes towards some people. If there is a very cruel person, we kind of ignore. So ignore doesn't mean condone what the person is doing, but act without adding more churn, hatred, and whatever you're doing, do it neutrally. In fact, in the Bhagavad Gītā, Krishna urges Arjuna to kill some of these people, even though they were related to him. And he tells him to do it with a state of mind where there is no hatred or attachment. So in a very neutral way, because it is obstructive to the dharma or righteousness, what those people are doing. And they're also, some of them are doing out of their, beyond their own power, because they are indebted to the evil Duryodhana. So they feel that they have to fight for him, even though they don't want to. And Krishna says, in that situation, you have to just destroy them without adding any churn to the mind, in a very neutral way. So that is the attitude, the mental attitude towards people, because the people are the greatest triggers. Then calm the mind physiologically using breath. This is the most common. Most of you are familiar with this. Then calm the mind using subtle senses. Sometimes these smells, tastes come in the meditation. Use that as an anchor to still the mind further. Some people may experience this, some may not, but it depends on a lot of meditation practice. Then in 1.36, he talks about calming the mind using its own pure nature. Now, this is something we will go in depth in today's class. The mind's nature is sattva, pure mind, without all the turmoil and everything. It is light and effulgent. So it is represented. It's not like the mind is like physical light. It's represented by light, because it shines and reveals, removes darkness, reveals things. So when you start meditating on this light, you will slowly go into your own true nature. This is called asmita, it's called I-ness, the I sense. That is what it's called. So calming the mind, vishoka va jyotishmati. So vishoka, without sorrow, jyotishmati, the effulgent light. Then calm the mind psychologically after modeling after a mind free from attachment. If you are thinking about this calm person, about such a person, about the mind of such a person, you naturally feel calm. So it's a role model. Then calm the mind using subconscious states, dream or deep sleep. Then Patanjali finally says, Yatapi matadhyanatva, by whatever means possible, your method of choice, agreeable method of choice, calm the mind down. So far, is this clear? So all these are not alien topics. He's just giving what can you say? A sampling. There are many techniques. He's just giving a sampling of techniques. Okay. Now, after that, we saw the sutra, but we didn't go deep into this sutra. And this sutra is about what happens to the mind after all this. And Patanjali talks about the elasticity of the mind. Paramanu parama mahatpantosya vashikaraha. Vashikaraha means mastery. Parama anu means the most minutest atom. The mind can get stability on the most minutest atom, and it can also go on and be able to conceptualize the entire vastness of the universe. Now, the problem with us human beings, there are some people who are very detailed oriented. One example is Einstein. Einstein, he could think about all the theory of relativity, all that, but in his personal life, he wouldn't sometimes know where he lived. So his wife or others, they have to help him. So he had no social awareness that way, but he was very good at going deep into a topic. And there are other people who are not detail oriented, but they can handle many situations, everything. So for a yogi whose mind has attained stability, they can effortlessly go from being detailed oriented, able to dive deep into your topic, at the same time conceptualize something vast. Okay, so before training the mind is like the example that's given us, it's like a wild horse. We saw the horse example, right? It refuses to go where you want to go, and if you force it, it struggles and soon runs off. It cannot stay focused on something very subtle because it gets bored or distracted. It cannot stay focused on something vast because it gets overwhelmed or scattered. In fact, in the Bhagavad Gītā, we saw the example, right? We'll come to that in a minute. Arjuna is not able to visualize the vastness of the universe. So Bhagavan gives him Divya Chakshuhu. So Divyam dadami te chakshuhu pashyame yogam aishwaram. So Bhagavan gives him divine eyes. So in the Bhagavad Gītā, let me go to the Bhagavad Gītā. Okay, here. It says, you cannot see me with ordinary eyes, I will give you divine eyes. So he was not ready. And then what happens to Arjuna? Arjuna sees all this cosmic vision, but because his mind was not prepared, he becomes scared. So Arjuna's first phase was Ashcharyam, being wonderstruck on seeing the cosmic form. And in the second phase, he encounters fear. So terrible fear. And what was the fear? He sees Bhagavan with raging flames, with canine teeth, with tusks, everything. So he says, Rupam mahatte bahuvaktra netram mahabaho bahubahu rupadam bahudaram bahudam strakaralam drishtva loka pravyatitastataham. Drishtva loka, on seeing all this with myriad arms, thighs, feet, with myriad stomachs, fearful canine teeth again and again. The one thing that scares him the most is damshtrakralam, the canine teeth or tusks, and people are all afraid, and so am I. Drishtva lokaha, people, pravyatitas tata aham, I am also afraid. So he's then to a point where he cannot even handle the cosmic vision because he was not ready. All right, so the cosmic vision, Arjuna's mind was not ready for seeing this vastness. and Bhagavan shows him the vast form. Okay, now the other, so that is the mind gets overwhelmed by something vast. So Paramanu is the infinitesimal thing. Mind can zoom in infinitely and stay there. That's the important thing. And the classic example for this is given in the Mahabharata. So this story is often quoted in the Mahabharata. So does anybody know what this story is? Is anybody here familiar with this story?
Arjuna and Dronacharya?
Yes, yeah, I'll tell the story. This is the story where the Pandavas and the Kauravas, as kids, they were all taught by Dronacharya, the great teacher. He was accomplished in all war arts of the warfare. Every skill he was accomplished. So he teaches them. So this one is a test for the students to see who's the most skilled archer. So the young princes, they're all lined up there. Dronacharya, one by one, he says, okay, you come. And he asks, what do you see? So first he calls Duryodhana, and he says, and this is what, there was a tree, and he puts a wooden bird. So it's not a real bird, so don't get worried. So he puts a wooden bird, and these princes were supposed to shoot their arrows at the bird. Then he calls one by one. I think first he pulls Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira is the eldest. Yudhishthira is known for his truthfulness. So, and Dronacharya says, today's test is precision. You must aim and strike only the eye of the wooden bird. Okay, and he calls Yudhishthira, the eldest Pandava, and Yudhishthira steps forward. He strings his bow and he took aim. Then Dronacharya says, wait, Yudhishthira, before you shoot, tell me what you see. And Yudhishthira says, Guruji, I see the tree, I see the many branches, I see the bird, and I can also see you standing beside me. Dronacharya lowered his hand. He sadly says, step aside, my son. You will not hit the mark today. You are not ready. So Yudhishthira steps aside. Now the proud, wicked Duryodhana, even as a kid, he was just very arrogant. He comes heartily. Duryodhana puffed up his chest and says, I will do that. Again, Dronacharya asks, tell me, Duryodhana, what do you see? Duryodhana was impatient. I see the bird, of course. I also see the branches sitting on, the leaves fluttering in the wind. And I also see the sky. Then Dronacharya was a little stern with him because he was so arrogant. He says, step aside. You go. You will also fail. And then one by one, the mighty Bhima, then the twins, Nakula, Sahadeva, all of them, all the Kauravas, the 100 Kauravas, one by one, they all said, I see this, I see that. So everybody, Dronacharya doesn't even give them a chance to shoot. Finally, last one, Dronacharya keeps Arjuna towards the end. He says, okay, now Arjuna, you come. Arjuna steps forward. He did not look at anybody. Others, they were all looking at their brothers and saying, I'm going to shoot it, all those things. He just comes. He looked at the Guru, and then his eyes were fixed on the object. He raised his magnificent bow. He drew the string back, and he froze like a statue. His concentration was so intense that the entire air around him seemed still. And then Dronacharya asked, do you see the tree? Without moving a muscle, Arjuna says, no, Guruji, I don't see the tree. Then he says, do you see the bird sitting on the tree? Arjuna says, he was surprising answer, no, because he was going to shoot the eye of the bird. He says, no, Guruji, I don't see the branch, I don't see the bird, I don't see the branches. Then Dronacharya asked, do you see the branch it's sitting on? No, Guruji. And then Dronacharya asks, tell me, if you're not seeing this, what is that you see? I only see the black center of the bird's eye. Then at that point, Dronacharya says, shoot. And Arjuna releases the arrow and it flies and hits the mark, right, the eye of the bird. So this is called ekagrata. It's true vashikaraha, that is the mastery. So Arjuna is depicted as like a master of focus. So he can just zone in on the minutest thing, but he was not able to visualize vastness because he was not a accomplished yogi. Okay, so that is the story of Arjuna. So paramanu parama mahat antosya vashikaraha. The mind attains stability in meditation on the minutest atom up to the entirety of the universe. So elasticity of the mind. Okay. So far is everything clear? So we've now going into the last phase where we step into high gear. So just wanted to know if you're so far everything is clear, the anchors and everything. The anchors are quick stop measures to prevent like huge vrittis, to get a semblance of stability. Now Patanjali is going to talk about deep states of meditation, but don't worry. You would have all had glimpses of these states at various times in your life. Okay, so none of these concepts are alien to you. Okay. So let us go. Now, Patanjali has defined samprajñāta and asamprajñāta samadhi. Does anybody remember that? Samprajñāta and asamprajñāta samadhi? We've seen that. I've actually explained also.
Is that when you focus on something or not focus on anything?
Yeah. So some prajna means knowledge, cognition. So when you have the knowledge of an object as the focus, then it is called samprajñāta. Sam means total, prajna means knowledge, cognition. So totally immersed in knowledge and cognition. Asamprajñāta means there is no seed, or they call it the seed, sabija. You have a seed of focus. Asamprajñāta means there's no knowledge or cognition involved. It is a very high state. So this is difficult. Whereas samprajñāta, most of us would have experienced those states, even though it's not during deep meditation and it's not sustained, we would have experienced. Okay, now Patanjali, the mind, is going to talk about the mind, how it works in meditation. Shina vritter abhijatasya mane grahitr grahana grahyeshu tadanjanata samāpatti. Okay, this is a very famous sloka, the Sutra, and it is quoted very often. So this is the example. When the Shina vritti means all the vrittis are depleted. Shina means depleted. When all the vrittis are depleted, this is the situation you have. The mind, it is like a pure crystal, and it takes on the color of what is nearby. Okay, so Shina means to deplete, to exhaust. When the vrittis are depleted, the mind takes on the like an unblemished crystal. The mind is compared to abhijatasya iva mane. So abhijatasya iva means like, abhijata means unblemished. Abhijatasya iva mane. Mani means a crystal. Abhijatasya iva mane, like an unblemished crystal, it takes on the tat anjanata. So which means here it refers to like the color or the feature of taking a tat anjanata, means taking the color of that which is nearby. So the mind tatstaha, the mind takes on. Tatstaha means the sthiti. So it means abiding. So the mind just takes on the features of an object that is nearby. So it takes on the feature. And what is the nearby object? Features of whatever is there. The grasper, that is the cognizer, the instrument of grasping, the instrument of cognition, or the object that is grasped. So this identification is called samāpatti. So he gives a definition of samadhi here. We already saw another definition. So samāpatti and samadhi, they are often used very interchangeably, but there is a slight difference between samadhi and samāpatti. Samāpatti is the psychological process of the mind transforming into an object, whereas samadhi is the state of balance and stillness resulting from the process. So samadhi, Swami Harihara and the Aranya says, it can be with seed, that's sampragnata, or without seed, asampragnata. But samāpatti is strictly associated with seeds. Look at how it says. It takes on the features of something that is nearby, and the something that's nearby is the object, or just the mind itself, or it can take on the cognizer. So the three items, it can take on any one of this. So it can look confusing. We'll go through this in great detail, so don't worry. So grahana, the word grahana, it means it grasps, or the object that is grasped. Grahitra, grahana, grahyeshu. So grahana here is what is used to grasp the object. Grahitra is the grasper. Grahana, instrument of grasping. Grahyam, that which is grasped. Okay, we will go into detail on each of this. So in this example, there is light from the sun. There is the Purusha, consciousness. The cloth is the Prakriti. It can be anything. The crystal here is like the mind. Even though mind belongs to Prakriti, here there's one more layer that is added. Now, the mind takes the intelligence from the Purusha, the consciousness. It takes the form from the matter, and it presents this package to us and says, look, I did this. I am the conscious reality. So it can trick us into thinking, okay, I am the mind. I did everything. If I'm smart, I think I'm superior. So this is how it tricks us. Okay. All right. Now, one other thing I wanted to tell you is all these analogies have limitations. Because by definition, this Purusha, we always use the sun or light to talk about the Purusha, but the Purusha by definition is incomprehensible. In the context of, in certain contexts, the Purusha is represented as a crystal. In this case, the mind is, so in some contexts, a crystal is used as an analogy for the Purusha. Ishvara, for example, in Sutra 1.24, Ishvara is a special Purusha that is beyond kleshas, actions, fruits of actions, or latent impressions. So, but in this particular situation, it is the crystal is used for the mind. Okay. All right. Oops. All right. Okay. So far, is it clear? Now we'll come to the three fields, the grahitra, grahana, grahyam. So this is actually a very, very, very important term that is used very often in Vedanta, and it's called the tripuṭi. The tripuṭi is the 3 fields of focus or cognition for the mind. So once I explain, you will understand. What can this crystal reflect? So we said the crystal takes on the color or the shape, whatever of, or the mind takes on the color or the shape of whatever is nearby, or the features of the object of focus. So what are the 3 fields of focus for the mind? Cognition. Patanjali characterizes all of reality into 3 potential objects of meditation. Okay, so what are the 3 objects of meditation? The 3 objects are grahyam, the known. These are the objects of the external world. So we saw in previous Samprajñāta Samadhi, meditating on a physical flame, the image of a deity or a physical body. So this is the vitarka, that is the gross objects on a form. Then vichara, meditating on the subtle elements or the tanmatras, energy centers, chakras, like the subtle smell, all those things. So all these vitarka and vichara, depending on if it is gross or subtle. So we saw that in Samprajñāta Samadhi. Don't worry, I will recap everything. Does anybody remember the Samprajñāta Samadhi, the Samadhi with cognition, the 4 states we saw? Vitarka, gross; vichara, subtle; then ananda, happiness; and asmita, the pure I sense. So I explained it, but I didn't go very detailed. Now we are going to go into detail. So I'm building up for that. So the objects can be gross or subtle. For example, one example is the rose flower we saw, the form, or you can meditate on the smell. So that is one thing. Then so grahya is vitarka or vichara, gross or subtle. Grahana, the instrument of knowing, meditating on the nature of the senses or focusing on the mind itself as an instrument. And we saw that in the Ananda Samadhi, the 3rd state, vitarka, vichara, ananda, asmita. So the 3rd state is Ananda Samadhi, just staying in the bliss. You're just happy. So this you would have experienced. So for those who are parents, the child's just the thought of the child may bring bliss, or you're passionate about something, just the thought of that, it gives you bliss, and soon you're just able to stay. You're in this happy state. You won't forget about that object. You are in the state of bliss. So this is that state, grahana. So the bliss, so the mind, the bliss, where is the bliss? It is in the mind. So it is the instrument of knowing. So you're focusing on the instrument, on the status. One status, sahananda samadhi, with happiness, samadhi with happiness. And the finally is the grahitru, the knower. Okay, so it's also called pramata, pramana, and the knower. So the knower is, so in those who've seen the Atma Bodha, the same grahyam, it is called pramata, prameya, and pramana. So the pramata is the knower, the prameya is the known, the instrument, and pramana is the tool which is used to know. So pramata is the knower, is the individual, the mind-body complex with the reflected consciousness. The prameya is that which is to be known, which is the higher entity, and pramana is the tool, which is the guru. So this is one way the whole thing is also interpreted in Vedanta. Anyway, here we have the knower. So the knower deserves special attention. Meditating on the sense of I amness, which is the asmita, the highest aspect of the ego, that is the closest reflection of the true self. we've seen all this before. I can go back there again. So far, are there questions? So let me go to the different states. Okay, these various samadhi. So vitarka, gross perceptible, and vichara, subtle perceptible. These two are the objects of focus. Okay, so these two are the that which is grasped, grahyam, and then there is the ananda. This is the tool, the tool that is used to grasp, and asmita, the pure essence. This is the grahitru, grahana, grahyam. That grahyam is that which is grabbed. Grahanam is the instrument of grasping, and this is the grasper, asmita. So far, is that clear? This we've seen before, the 4 samprajñāta samadhis, that with cognition that I just talked about. So are there questions here before I move?
Yeah, I've got a quick question.
Yeah.
So in the 8 limbs, I forget the exact names, but there's like focus, concentration, and samadhi, those like 3.
Yes.
What differentiates that focus and concentration, from say samadhi on a gross perceptible?
Yes. Very good. So, very good. Focus is when, let me go back again to that slide. Objects of concept samadhi. Okay, it's way up there. Okay. All right. Focus on this. All right. All right. Dharana, here, it is like touch and go. So you're trying to focus, but it just bounces off. The example, it's like an example we gave is a discontinuous flow. Then dharana becomes like a continuous flow, like a oil. So remember the oil flowing, and it's separate, the subject object. And then in samadhi, it seems like a blending of the two. The other example we saw is a training of a horse. The horse, like an elastic rope, sometimes it goes out of the boundary and then it comes inside the boundary, and then in the second it just slowly ambles inside the boundary. There's still thoughts, but it's still thought of that object. And in the samadhi, you're just so engrossed in one. Does that explain, Amy?
Yeah, I think so. This particular analogy where the observer and the horse have become one entity feels like the sasmita samadhi, like more specifically.
Yeah. So, okay. So the sasmita, it's not really, because I'll tell you, we'll come to that sasmita.
Okay.
Because I'm going to again go over all those the different obstacles. So okay, what is that? So, here. All right, what's the vitarka vichara? Okay, all right. So the example that we saw in vitarka is the example is, so you're looking at the sun, and you just feel like you see the vastness of the sun, the beauty, the awe of this. You just feel like melting into that. Or when you go to the Grand Canyon, you see something that is awe. You just feel like you want to just melt with the whole thing, and the mind becomes calm. That is the state, savitarka. And then the savichara is, or vichara samadhi, it is on the subtle principle, like the smell. There's from gross to subtle. Now from pure essence of the scent. You're just melting. You smelt this rose. It was so nice. You're just melting for a moment in the smell. Just even for a moment, if you do that, that is the state, savichara. Then asmita, we saw when you think of a child or somebody loud, you love, and you're just melting in. You're just with the joy. There's nothing there. Even the child has gone from the. It's just your joy. You're with that joy. Briefly, even for 1 second, if you have it, it's that state. Then comes asmita. So this, I'm going to talk a lot about this now. Now, I'm very happy you asked. Okay, the example, I've been thinking what example to give, and I've been listening to a lot of talks on Vedanta where this is talked about in detail. So, and I want to give the correct analogy. So this is one analogy. Now, asmita is the sense of I. Before that, I have lots of material for this. So let me just go over there. Bear with me for 1 minute. Okay. Since you asked, I will go directly to that. Okay. The grahitra, the knowledge, knower, the asmita, and the pure essence. So they're all used interchangeably. Versus the ahankara, that is the mutated ego. So first we have to distinguish the ahankara from asmita. Asmita is the uncolored I sense, the pure awareness in your mind of I am. Ahankara is I am a father, I am a man, I am a woman. Those kind of things are ahankara. It's already, it's the pure reflection versus reflection with ripples, you can say. Okay. What is the example of such a state? I am. Now, again, you are seeing something like very awe-inspiring. I don't have this slide here. I think I have it at a later point. You're seeing something that's very, very awe-inspiring. Okay, this, and in that case, you are with a bunch. Assume you're in the shark cage. You're seeing this huge thing. You're seeing the power, just awe. In that cage, in that state, you're not paying attention to the person next to you. So usually what happens is when we are standing in a group with a bunch of people, okay, I am a man, this is a woman, this person is younger than me, and this person seems to not be that well educated. So all these distinctions come, right? You're standing, you're watching something. You're standing in a group of people, you're watching all this. I am something, this person is something, all this distinction. Now, when you see something like awe, you don't, all those just melt away. You're just with I. You're just in this sense of I. I'm just there. The notion of I am a man, woman, rich, poor, intelligent, not intelligent, all those go away. That is the pure I sense. But it's still in the mind. You're just aware. When your mind is very calm, all those things fall away. The pure I sense, that is that. Does this now help a little bit, Amy?
Yeah, I think so. I think the idea is that the focus and concentration are like kind of how well you're able to keep your mind on something, and samadhi is you're able to keep it there, and then there's these different ways.
You're melting, exactly.
Yeah.
And samadhi cannot just be on the I sense, it can be on other things. You're just melting into the joy. You're melting into the sun. You're seeing this huge, the beautiful thing. You're melting into the vastness of the Grand Canyon. And that is the vitarka samadhi. Vichara is you're just melting in this beautiful fragrance that you smell. That is vichara. Except that in deep states of samadhi, those smells come from within. Okay? So it's not just on the eye sense, you're melting into different things.
Is it always like, is this like the natural progression of samadhi to go from the first state to the fourth state?
Yes, very good question. I was going to come to that. The Buddha clearly says this is how it progresses. So he gives us 4 states of jhanas, increasing in subtleness. So gross object, then subtle object, then bliss. The Buddha calls us piti or priti, which means joy. And then finally, you're just calm. Everything has surpassed. So that state is called, it's either called upeka, I believe. It's beyond everything, just with yourself. That is the sasmita samadhi in the yoga. Okay, so Patanjali, coming back to the sutra, the mind takes on these 3, the features of these things. The object we saw, or gross subtle object, the instrument of cognition, the mind. One example is the joy. Joy is the state of the mind. So it takes the qualities of the mind. The other is the eye, the pure eye sense. So the pure eye sense, we've seen, that is the uncolored eye sense, the pure existence of I am. Okay, so that is the one that is taken on. Now, so there is a very important point. I was going to go into it, but maybe I'll take 5 more minutes this class because there's a lot to cover. The Patanjali has defined samāpatti, and the difference between samāpatti and samadhi, they're mostly used interchangeably. Samāpatti is the engrossment. Samadhi is the state after you're engrossed. It's a state where the mind becomes so completely absorbed in the object of meditation, like the crystal. It seems to take the color of the cloth, that the mind seems to lose its own identity. So that is the samadhi. So one classic story that is often given is the story of King Bharata. So India is called Bharat because of this king, who was a great king who ruled, very brilliant, noble king who ruled India. And he was a great person. Okay, and one day, you probably have heard this story before. I'll tell it quickly. One day, there was a pregnant deer that was being chased by a lion. The pregnant deer jumps across a stream, and in that process, it gives birth, and the baby falls in the water. So Bharata goes to get the baby, and then he starts taking care of it. Bharata, as he was a king, in his later years, he decided to understand his own self. So he wants to move away from the hustle and bustle of the city. So he gave his kingdom to his son, told him to take care, to rule the kingdom. And he moved to the outskirts, close to the forest, where he had a hut, and he was meditating there in silence, and where he was not disturbed by others. But since he started taking care of the deer, he was more and more meditating less and more thinking about the deer. And his mind became so absorbed with the deer that even at the time of death, the only thing he thought about was the deer. So the mind took on the qualities of a deer, so much so that in the next janma, he was born as a deer. But Jati Smaran, this deer was not no ordinary deer. It knew that it was a human in the past birth. In the Bhagavad Gītā also it says, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajatyante kalevaram tam tame veti kaunteya sada tat bhava bhavitaha. Whatever you think of intensely at the time of death, that you will become in the next life. Bhagavan tells Arjuna. So that's the mind just takes on this entire, so obsessed in that state of concentration, it just takes on that and it becomes that. So that's what is used. Now, so far, are there any other questions? So I'm happy you asked that question, Amy. Anjana, Anu, Jaffrey, others, do you have any other questions? Because I will cover this in even more detail. So far, is this clear? The objects that the mind can take. 3 kinds of objects. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, Jaffrey. All right. Great. So now comes this I, the pure I sense. There is this confusion that will come. So it's called asmita. We can never see ourselves. The subject cannot see itself. Subject can see its reflection in the moon. In this picture, the moon cannot see itself. Moon can see the reflection in the water. If you are the moon, right? And the quality of the reflection depends on the quality of the reflecting medium. So this part, everybody is now familiar. Now, the question is, the sasmita samadhi, the pure I sense, is that the same as realizing the Purusha, awareness of the Purusha? So the feeling, the uncolored I sense, the experiencing reflection, is that the same experience as knowing the Purusha? Because we've said, when you understand the Purusha, you get liberation. Anybody wants to answer? Is this the same? What do you think? So then, after Sasmita Samadhi, you realize the Purusha, you should get liberated. Anybody wants to take a guess?
What's the question, Ganeshji?
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, the question is, all right, very good. You asked. There is consciousness, which is separate from the mind. You know that, right? Now, what I'm asking is, when in the state of Sasmita Samadhi, where you are, there is the awareness of I am. There is no other feeling. This is the final stage of Samprajñata Samadhi. After gross, subtle, joy, then the pure, after the joy goes down, the pure sense of I. There's no other thing. I'm just there. I'm not thinking of me as a man, woman. I am just awareness, just existing there. You would have felt this at some point or time, when you're just so calm. There's no notion, I'm a woman, I'm this, everything is gone. One example I gave is just completely absorbed in something. Oh, you are not even realizing the person next to you is a woman, man, all that, rich, poor. You are just in yourself. Okay, in that state, is this the realization of the Purusha? Because we've said, when you realize the Purusha, the cycle, the transmigration is gone. You escape from that. So is this state the same as that?
I think you've mentioned before that it takes like these 3 things, though, that you have to have knowledge of the self and have to be able to like ask discerning questions to really understand, and then have this meditation
Shravanam,
ability.
Mananam, Nididhyasanam, listening to scriptures, understanding and internalizing the Nididhyasanam. That's there, but I will tell you the difference. Now, we've said this, there is a consciousness which is separate, and this consciousness reflects of the chitta, that's the movie theater of the mind. Chittiva bhavayati chittam. It's the closest to the consciousness, the movie theater, like a movie theater, the lamp reflects off the screen. Then there is the ego, the asmita, that is also very close. It's almost immediately after it's reflected on the screen, it's the sense of I. That's what we are seeing as the pure I sense. Then there's the intellect, the mind, And this is what the scriptures say. Then it goes into the reflected to the senses. Then the awareness permeates the nook and corners of the body. Okay, so this is how it's successively reflected. Now, the difference between knowing the Purusha and this I sense is as follows. Reflected consciousness in its purest form is experienced as Sasmita Samadhi, the example of the clear moon reflecting on the water. Original consciousness is experienced as a feeling of expansion, not just you, but it's beyond. In fact, in the Bhagavad Gītā, there are many shlokas in the 6th chapter which says, Atmaupam jena sarvatra samam pashyati yorjuna sukham va yadi va dukkam sayogi paramo mataha. By which likeness of the self one sees the same everywhere in all beings, who is the same in pleasure and pain, that yogi I regard to be the highest. So it is the experience of the Purusha is much bigger than that. Experience of the pure I sense, it is the highest state of sampragnata samadhi. Samadhi which uses an object of focus. Is this point clear? Whereas the original consciousness experience, it is a feeling of expansion. At that point, you get videha mukti. You get jivan mukti. You are liberated. That is the highest state. But this is not the highest state. Reflected consciousness experiencing as I, you have experienced it for a short time. Is this point clear?
It's really interesting. It kind of feels like there's so many points along the way where you might really think you've made it.
Yes, exactly.
But there's another level.
Patanjali tells that. Yes, yeah. Very good. Yes. So this Sasmita Samadhi is the highest form of Sampragnata Samadhi, which means those which use an object and use knowledge. When you have an object, there's all the knowledge. Cognition comes in, right? So that's the Sampragnata Samadhi. Okay. There's one other point I want to say, but we are getting close to time and I have to move on. Maybe I'll do this at another time. So reflected consciousness, you all saw. Now, I told about it in detail, but again, let's go through this. The Savitarka, concentration on gross objects with the help of words. So the Vitarka is the gross objects, right? But Vitarka can be had with words or without words, where word and the meaning are mixed. Or we saw this, for example, if you think of an object, like some people visualize Mount Kailash. The word Kailash comes, some people just think about it without the word coming in. So that is the nirvitarka, engrossment, free of words, with only the object present. It's still gross. Our nature of the object is gross, form and everything. In vichara, you go into the subtle, concentration on subtle objects with the help of words, whereas previously savitarka, concentration on gross objects with the help of words. Nirvitarka then becomes a nirvichara, or concentration on gross objects without the help of words. Nirvichara's concentration on subtle objects without the help of words, like smell. Smell, you can say, it smells. This smells. In meditation, you encounter a smell. This smells like that food that I ate some time back. So words come in. Then the other one, nirvichara, is just that analogy. You're just smelling this, very similar to that smell, but there is no words that come in. Now you might wonder, why is Patanjali making this distinction between use of words and not use of words? It seems Patanjali is doing so many classification. It's just adding to my confusion. Why did he do this division? concentration on gross objects with the help of words, concentration on subtle gross objects without the help of words, all these things. Why is he confusing me? It's actually a very, very, very important point. We'll come to that very soon. Okay, so now remember I taught you all this much in the beginning. Now he's defining what is the Savitarka Samāpatti. Among these, Tatra Shabdartha Jnana Vikalpai Sankirtna Savitarka Samāpattihi. Among these, the engrossment in which there is a mingling. Here, Shabda means sound. Artha here means the object that is mingled. Then Jnana is knowledge, and Vikalpa is imagination. So all this mingling of the sound, knowledge, imagination, and the object, this is known as Savitarka Samāpattihi. So I'm not going to go into the details because we've seen that adequately. Smriti parishuddhau swarupa shunye partha matra nirpasa nirpitarka. So smriti parishuddhau, when the memory is purified of words, meanings, sounds, the mind appears to lose its sense of ego I-ness, and only the object of contemplation remains illuminated. This is nirvitarka samāpattihi. Samāpattihi without conceptualization. Okay, so here all those other sounds, so all this that you're associating with the ego, all that is gone. Only the object of contemplation remains. Like just this mountain standing still. You're awestruck by this beauty of the mountain, and it's just there. There's no thing saying, oh, it's tall, and I heard that sound, the sound of the wind, all that is gone. Meaning you're immediately thinking snow cap, all those words that come in, but still in your meditation, the mountain is there before you. All that is gone now, sounds, everything is gone, just the mountain stays still. So it's a little more advanced stage than the first stage. Okay, so look at the word. He says, when the memory is purified, smriti parishuddhau, completely purified of these words, meanings, and mind appears to lose its sense of ego. Swarupa shunya eva, as though it's just devoid, because it's only when the ego is there, this, that, all that comes, it's gone. Artha matra nirbhasam, that object alone stays. Artha here, the object that alone is there, that is nirvitarka. Okay. So the name and the object are two different entities. So you're looking at Mount Kailash. By practice, one may think of an object without its denotative name. The mixing of an object with its name may be avoided. This is called purifying the mind of the memory of mixing. It's not difficult to practice. Okay. All right. Okay. Now the question. So I will ask you the question. Why is this a big deal? Why is he saying with name, without name, all that? Why is that a big deal? Anybody wants to answer? Take a guess. Anybody? Anjana, you want to take a guess? Why is this a big deal? With words, without words? Okay, I'll give the answer. So, yeah, go ahead. Swati, you wanted to say? Yeah.
Probably because if we are looking at the objects, we are using some mind to visualize, and if you are not using the words, or when it's subtle, it's more like seeing.
It's still gross.
Or like feeling.
No, that is savichara and nirvichara. Even with feeling, you can say, it feels warm. So For example, we are meditating and you feel a nice warm sensation in your hand. Then I feel warm. That words come in.
Okay.
So
So
does it have to do with like the experience versus, I don't know, someone communicating or teaching you something?
Or is it about the nirbija or asampragnata samadhi?
no, we've not gone to, so it's still in even in the grossest state, savitarka and nirvitarka. So it's not, we're not gone to asampragnata at all. So it's still, so the transition from conceptual thinking to direct perception. So what Vyasa is trying to say is this conceptual thinking, it takes away from the direct perception. Do you see that? Shabda, Artha, Jnana, Vikalpa, word, object, knowledge, imagination, they're all mixed in the first case, Savitarka. In Nirvitarka, it is direct realization. And the mixing up happens because of memory. The previous, all those things, it is conditioning, all those things come in from your samskaras. What you're trying to do is suppress all those things and see the object as it is, without the coloring of words, your pleasant feelings. Sometimes when you think of the mountain, you would remember an encounter where you felt good, and that also comes. All those you're removing. I mean, those are good to still the mind, but if you want to go deeper into reduced vrittis, you have to just see direct perception. Mind is unable to separate the fresh present memory moment of experience of the object from the old memories associated with this. Object is seen through a wheel of past associations. All the sounds, all those you learned, right? That's what is coming. Tall mountains, snow-clad, all that. And then as the mind quietens down, you just the mind is there. Maybe you would have felt it for 1 second, 2 seconds without all those thoughts. That's what it is. Is it now understood? Lena?
Yeah, I'm a very analytical person.
Yes.
And so in a way, to understand this, I see myself in a way that when I am analytical, when I'm using my buddhi, my intelligence to experience something, the analytical part of me staying in the way of experiencing something.
Very good point. Yes, exactly. So that's this thing catches this. Analytical is very good. So it's like the example that's given is like a foggy lens and a clean lens. You're just seeing it as it is, or a colored lens, and you're seeing things as they are without bringing. That is why this distinction is made. Now do you see why Patanjali he's doing, for example, classification based on the subtlety, gross to fine states, vitarka, vichara, ananda, asmita. That is gross, subtle object, bliss, sense of pure I. And then he's also, for each of these vitarka, vichara, he says with words, without words, knowledge, all those things, or without, just as it is. Okay, so the another example is savitarka versus nirvitarka, is when you're just in awe of a thing. Like you heard a lot about a shark, a great white shark. You know, it's 20 feet long, huge teeth, giant, all that. All the words are, all these, right now, if that thought comes, these words come, right? But when you're just seeing that, you're in awe. Everything goes away. It's like a being. It's like a new being there. You don't even use the word shark. You're now directly experiencing it. That kind of clarity when it comes in meditation, that's nirvitarka. Okay, so that is so, and then Patanjali says, etaiva savichara nirvichara cha sukshma vishayapyakyata. By this above mentioned explanation of savitarka and nirvitarka, savichara and nirvichara, whose objects are subtles, are also explained. So that we don't have to go into. So we have covered that also. Okay. All right. So the 4 examples we've seen: the sun, savitarka, example of sun as a gross object of concentration. Mind is full of knowledge of the shape, composition, far away, all these thoughts come in. The sun is still there. You're just merged with the sun, but on the background, there are all these words. The knowledge will be accompanied by verbal concepts. Sun is round, it's far. It's this is savitarka samāpatti. Then nirvitarka, this forgetting, you're just yogi realizes all words used to describe the properties are just names and forms, and you're just merged with this luminous the sun. And then savichara is after concentration on the luminosity of the light, the yogi further calms the mind and contemplates on the subtle element of light called the light tanmatra. This is actually a very important thing. This is conditioned by words, objects, and their knowledge mixed all together. So this is savichara samadhi, samāpatti. Feelings of pleasure and pain are due to the variety in their grossness. When the knowledge of the subtle state is realized, the pleasure and pain will disappear. So it goes beyond, and the tanmatras are the subtle aspect of the senses that you see. That's why in meditation, when you smell or hear sound, smell things, it's all the tanmatra. It is not physical sound. It is the subtle aspect of the sound that is captured. And it is said that the earth has all 5: sound, touch, form, flavor, odor. Water doesn't have odor in the pure form. Don't say this water stinks, it smells like chlorine, but pure water doesn't. Fire has sound. Touch, can definitely touch the fire, and you can see the form. Air has sound and touch. You feel the air on the skin. Here, then space has, they say sound, but it's literally waves, because through vacuum there's no sound that goes, but it's essentially through physical space. That's how sound travels, right? Sound travels through by these waves. That's how it longitudinal waves, it travels that way. So this is the unique property. Okay. When proficiency is acquired in savichara, engrossment on the light tanmatra, and the memory is freed from verbal concepts, the concentration only reveals the subtle nature of the object concentrated upon. All right, I will stop here because we're already over time.